However, there is a big problem with this growth. Almost all of it went to the top 50% wealthiest people, meaning that for roughly half of all Poles, the economic development did little to improve their lives. But why is that the case? Well, that's because the people who got to keep their job after communism were able to earn enough money to give their children a better life, better food, better education, and better job prospects. For example, if you were able to teach your child English, then they could go abroad to get a higher salary. However, only 30% of Poles speak English, meaning that finding a job in another country is almost impossible for 70% of the population. Those of us who speak English have a major advantage over those who don't. Not everyone can be like me and download all seasons of Star Trek, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and Digimon as a teenager in order to teach myself English. I am lucky. I am lucky that we had an internet connection, that I could afford my own computer, and that I had enough free time. A lot of people are not that lucky, and those who are unlucky don't have as many opportunities to get rich. While Poland has tried to improve the living standards of the poor through welfare programs and free education, a lot of people simply can't make use of those opportunities. At the same time, a new class of super wealthy have emerged, with the top 1% owning roughly 25% of all the wealth in Poland by the early 2020s. They were the ones who owned businesses when Poland became capitalist. And as Poland's economy began to grow, their businesses started earning more profit, and they eventually began investing those profits into even more businesses. And this caused a problem, because people who have a lot of money tend to spend a much smaller percent of their wealth. Because if you already have good food, a nice house, and can buy your expensive products, then what else are you going to do with your money? Even a hobby such as collecting expensive cars is a relatively small expense when you're a multi-millionaire. That money is hoarded instead of investing it back in the economy. On the other hand, if that wealth was in the hands of average people, they would spend a larger percentage of that money, which in turn means businesses have more customers to sell more goods to, and those companies start expanding. And those in the bottom 50% saw those around them getting wealthier, while they themselves are living paycheck to paycheck. This causes a political divide between those who benefit and those who do not. And when you have a large group of people who see everyone around them getting wealthier but they do not, then they will create civil unrest. Because people who are not supported by their government will turn against their government. And people who don't have their concerns heard peacefully will resort to violence. There are relatively easy ways to fix these issues. Poland is currently spending a lot of welfare on wealthy people. However, in order for welfare to have the highest return on investment, it should be focused on the poorest people. Because people who are poor are more likely to get sick, commit crimes, or become homeless. As a result, you need to spend more money on hospitals, police, and homeless shelters. This is a waste of money. It's a lot more efficient to lift people out of poverty, so instead of them costing taxes, they will instead start to pay taxes. Welfare is essentially an investment. You spend a little bit of money now, so you don't have to spend a lot of money over the long term. Poland could also introduce higher taxes on the wealthier people, because when a person has to pay taxes on the money they already have, then they will slowly lose that money. In order to prevent losing money, the rich will be forced to invest it. As a result, wealth taxes gives the government more money while increasing investments made by the rich. Furthermore, Poland needs to invest more in high-tech industries. Right now, the average Polish person is only about half as productive as a Western person doing the same job. This is at the very bottom of what's considered a wealthy country. But in order to become more productive, you need better technology. Then you can produce more goods and of higher quality. That will in turn increase the salaries. And with higher salaries, the more customers Polish businesses have. If Poland is able to do this, they would be able to double their economic output.